Coming to you live from the White Picket Studios in Houston, Texas, this is the Realty Ruckus. If you are in any way, shape, or form involved in the real estate industry, this is the show for you. And now, your host, Alan Hernandez.
What's up, everyone? This is Jabron Hernandez. Alan is not going to be in studio with us today. He is in Nashville, Tennessee, visiting Elvis Presley, I believe.
Was it Elvis?
Is that no, not Elvis Presley?
I think it was some guy named Dave Ramsey.
Oh, I think. Sorry about that, guys. So today we have a really good show lined up, regardless of Alan being here or not. He is in Nashville, Tennessee. He's visiting Dave Ramsey. He's doing a VIP experience there with him, getting to meet him one-on-one, which is really exciting because he gets to bring back some really good tools that he gets to share with our team, as well as with all of you out there, all of our listeners. So we're really excited to have him back. He'll be back on Friday, so make sure that you're live, listen to us live in studio. But regardless, today it's going to be David and I, and we've got some really good stuff for you. And I want to go ahead and just get started, jump right into the meat and potatoes here, and let's talk about last night. Last night was one for the ages as far as it goes in terms of entertainment quality.
Yes.
You had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
If you're a football fan, you had Monday Night Football. It was a great game.
Great game.
I think, what was it, over 70 points total in the game? I mean, it was just crazy back and forth. And then you had the WWE, literally the WWE. I'm not talking about the debate yet. You actually had WWE, the Monday Night Raw.
Oh, there was wrestling too. Okay.
Yeah, there was actually Monday Night Raw. And then you had the other Raw, which was on the big showdown on CNN. And that was crazy, man. I couldn't believe how many viewers it actually had. So
over 100 million.
Over 100 million. Can you give us an example just so everyone can grasp exactly how many people that is? What other events?
Okay. So as far as America goes, at its peak, American Idol reached 30 million viewers.
Okay.
So the only thing that
wait, that's at its highest viewership
at its
ever.
Peak. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best of the best right there for American Idol. They hit 30 million.
Okay, and that's one of America's biggest shows.
Yeah.
Of all time.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the only other thing that is on the same level as this presidential debate was last night, which is a huge deal, is actually the Super Bowl.
It's the Super Bowl.
It was as big, if not bigger, than the Super Bowl.
You know, I'm curious. I wonder if they were selling commercial space just as expensive as they did for the Super Bowl for the debate.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you got to think. I mean, like, think about the advertising dollars. And CNN, they put some time and they put some effort into the debate because they had those posters, you know, with Hillary Clinton on one side and Donald Trump on the other, having like a face-off. It felt like a UFC match almost.
UFC matchup, yep.
And did it live up to the expectations? In my eyes, I would say, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It was definitely what I expected from the debate when it comes to those two candidates.
Yeah, that's true. I think we didn't see as much, well, how would you say it, as much of a ruckus, so to say, from Donald Trump because they didn't let the audience play a factor in this debate. You know, they did kind of cheer and you know, do some clapping or whatnot at times, but for the most part, they kept that down. And I think Trump really feeds off of that a lot, and it kind of helps him, and that wasn't there for him last night.
Yeah, and I want to say there was a couple moments last night where Trump actually looked a little nervous. And I think that was the first time I've ever seen that happen in him, where he kind of just stared at Hillary for a few seconds and didn't know what to say. It took him a while to gain his composure and put out a good response to what was being said. And I want to say one place where Hillary really got him good was on the tax return thing, because she finally hit the issue. And guys, Ruckus doesn't support either one of the candidates. It's not that we're going one way or the other. We just don't want to have an affiliation with either of the candidates. But it's still okay to say when one candidate calls the other candidate out in a successful way. And one thing Hillary did last night is she finally got to the bare bone issue of Donald Trump's tax returns, where she said, just release them. What's there to hide?
Yeah.
And he tried to go back and say, well, then you release those 33,000 emails that you deleted.
I thought, you know, which is something you can hit her pretty hard on, you know. That's a huge, I mean, we all know she's a liar. I'm just going to go, I'm going to go ahead and say it. She's lied about some things, and I thought Trump would hit her a whole lot harder on that, and I didn't get that out of him. He didn't hit her as hard as I thought he would, and she handled it pretty smoothly, surprisingly.
He avoided making a lot of the personal insults, which he's very famous for doing.
Yeah.
He didn't really go and attack her as much as I expected. He was more on the defensive and responding to her comments, but he got caught a few times. I'm telling you, the tax return one is a big deal because he finally came out and said,
he's gonna.
yeah, I use loopholes.
Yeah. That makes me smart.
That makes me smart. I use the loopholes.
Yeah.
But it's basically saying I didn't pay almost anything in taxes. And even though he admitted to making, according to him, $690 million in income last year. So that's pretty surprising. Yeah. Overall, who would you say, in your opinion, won that debate last night?
Clinton. She just looked. I don't like either of them. I'm sad about the choices we have as Americans for this election. We do have other choices, but to me, Clinton was more polished, more prepared, and kind of played. Trump fell for the bait. He came and talked over her, and he looked bad. So I think Clinton won this one. We'll see what happens in the next one.
I have to tend to agree with you. Well, that's all the politics we're going to talk about today. When we come back, I actually want to look at the biggest mistakes that I've made when it comes to hiring. This is stuff that's going to make your business better for you, make it easier for you to hire people. So make sure you come back and catch us after the break.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Stop searching and start staying in the know with our Houston Real Estate Events page on Facebook. Follow us by searching at Houston Real Estate Events to stay up to date on the latest events for real estate in the Houston area. If you are interested in having your event on our page, please email me at david@whitepickettrealty.com. Again, that's david@whitepickettrealty.com. Non-paid events only. One more time, find us on Facebook at Houston Real Estate Events, and we'll see y'all at the next one.
Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, david@houseflippingnetwork.com. That's david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on Realty Ruckus. Remember that you can live tweet us at Realty Ruckus. Again, that's at Realty Ruckus. Or you can chat with us on Facebook and YouTube Live. Now, David, how's the weather out there for us this week?
Man, it's looking great, guys. We're going to only have a high of 85, lows in the high 60s. So right now it's 77. Slight chance of rain, but throughout the week, doesn't look like we'll be catching any rain.
That is phenomenal.
I know.
Phenomenal, man. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Football weather's finally here.
It is. It is. It didn't feel like that for a long time there. It was so hot. I want to say this was the hottest summer I can remember, and it had to do with the humidity, man.
Yeah.
It was. You walk outside and you were immediately drenched in sweat. It was pretty bad, but it's good to know that it's cooling down. It's going to be a little bit nicer out there for everyone. And I want to go ahead and talk about my first hire. So, David, you work here now, and Brandon, he works here as well. And, we have a lot of other staff members. But believe it or not, there was a time when this office was just me and Alan. And it was the two of us and Rose, actually.
Wait, in this office space?
Yeah, so believe it or not, in our office space here, 2,700 square feet. when we got this space, me and Alan were over-ambitious,
Yeah,
I
see that.
Our eyes were bigger than the space was.
Yeah, wanted to stretch out your legs a little bit.
Yeah, well, we had a vision for having a lot of team members and having really high production here. So we wanted to find a space so we didn't have to keep upgrading constantly. Mm-hmm. And I would say, going back, that's probably a mistake. I wouldn't advise very many people to do that. We got lucky that our landlord gave us a 1-year lease because that gave us the option in case we couldn't afford it anymore to get out of town. But I know some people who've gone out and they sign like a 5 or even a 10-year lease on a space. They're a brand new company.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, how in the world can they afford that, you know? And because you don't know what your employees are going to cost you at some point. So I wanted to talk about the biggest mistakes that I made when it comes to hiring. And you guys are going to laugh because I want to talk about the very first hire. So the very first hire was actually Alan hired a lady by the name of Rose as his assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first hire officially, but it wasn't the first hire like White Picket had, right? So
Yeah.
we had a little meeting, Alan and I, and we said, hey, we want to put together like a blog on the website. And we need somebody who can go in every single day, post everything to social media, write some interesting blogs for us. And we didn't do our research. We didn't go out there and find out that there's like people in India and all over the world that'll write this for you and update your blogs for like $2-3 an hour. And so we said, okay, well, let's go out and find our first hire. That's what our first hire is going to do. They're going to do all of the blogging for us. They're going to update the website with the blogs and then post all of that to social media. And when we started 4 years ago, social media was Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter wasn't around really yet. It was starting to take ground, but not really. Instagram didn't exist. Snapchat didn't exist. So we're talking about a very young internet, you know. And I remember putting an ad on Craigslist, which is probably the worst way to hire. Anybody who's out there doing that, just stop. Go out and find a better way to hire than Craigslist. There's a lot of websites, monster.com, where there's legitimate resumes. There's a lot of people that'll go out there and actually find talent for you.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of recruiters out there. One of the companies that we've used before, and I know in other companies that have referred them to me, is called Creative Circle. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not the cheapest, but you get good quality candidates that have been screened. As opposed to Craigslist, there is no screening process on
you don't know
Craigslist.
what you're getting.
Yeah, you're just getting whatever you get. And I remember Alan said, okay, well, we'll approve it. We'll approve it in a budget to hire that person. Go ahead and put some ads out there and see what you can do. So we put out the ads on there, and I get back like 250 resumes, right? And that's when you start to realize how uneducated the vast majority of America is.
Yep, it's
when
true.
you start getting those resumes in. It's
true.
like special skills, lifting weights. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure that that's going to be applicable to this position here. That's not really going to help you. And so I interviewed probably out of those resumes, I threw away 200 out of the 250. They were just bad. I mean, when you read things on there and you're like, no, this is bad. I can't have that. And so I brought in out of the other 50, I called some back. And of course, probably 30-40% of them didn't even answer the phone, which to me, that was it. Cut them right there. Mm-hmm. And I was left with about 20 candidates to interview. And I brought them in, and I was thinking the whole time, like, oh, my God, this is miserable.
Damn, you
Like,
brought in 20 people?
Yeah, this was back before I was doing phone interviews and phone calls. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, how to avoid a lot of these mistakes that I made. But I brought in all 20 of those people, and I spent about an hour with each one. So I spent almost a half of an entire full work week doing that, right? And that was miserable, man. That was such a waste of my time. And finally, I brought in one person, and I hit a desperation mode where I was like, I have to hire somebody.
Yeah.
You know, time is running out. I have to hire somebody. Everyone I've hired up to this point, for lack of a better word, is crap. Like, they're not going to do a good job.
You got worn down.
Yeah, I got worn down, man. My will started to break, you know. They broke me. And finally, I said, I'm just going to hire the next person that walks in here and makes me feel like they can actually do something. It was a young lady that came in here, and she was like, oh, yeah, I'm a great writer. I love writing, and I'm pretty good with technology. Like, I know about the internets. And that should have been my first sign. Like, whenever she used the word internets, I should have been like, no, I'm going to cut this one out. But I brought her in anyways, and just a heads up to everyone, she didn't last long, but she came in, and it was a complete mistake because I hired out of desperation. I was like, I need somebody. I'm running out of candidates. Let me find a first person. And I took her. We brought her in here, gave her a quick little orientation, and I want to say it was about 50-50 bad hiring on our part, and then also 50% her not doing what we were asking her to do. But overall, it was more of a failure on our part of not telling her exactly what our expectations were and what we expected from her. So she came in the very first day, and I had told her that she was going to be blogging and she was going to be writing blogs, right?
Yeah.
Well, she thought that that meant writing them down on paper. So apparently when she told me that she was a good writer, that meant that she liked to write like journal entries into her own personal journal. And that's what she'd been writing this whole time. And so she came in, and the first blog she wrote, she starts to write it on paper, and I'm thinking, wow, that's really inefficient. She's going to have to write it out by hand first, then go back and retype it all, and then edit it, and then post it. And I was like, this is going to take her like 2 or 3 hours for each one. And so I remember I walked up to her and I said, hey, so-and-so, I'm not going to say her name. I don't want to bring that up on air.
Yeah.
And I said, don't you think it would be more efficient if you typed it first? And she looked at me and just looked at me straight in the face and said, this is the way I like to do stuff. Are you going to let me work the way I like to do it? And I was just shocked by that, man. I couldn't believe like an employee had just told me that. I didn't even know how to respond. I wanted to just go ballistic right there in the moment and be like, get out. And I thought, no, it's my first hire, and we'll see where it goes. So when we come back from the break, I want to finish telling the story of what happened with my first hire and give everyone an idea on what it is that they can do to avoid making that exact same mistake that I made. It's a good story, guys. You don't want to miss it. We'll hit you after the break.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service and an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Stop searching and start staying in the know with our Houston Real Estate Events page on Facebook. Follow us by searching at Houston Real Estate Events to stay up to date on the latest events for real estate in the Houston area. If you are interested in having your event on our page, please email me at david@whitepicketrealty.com. Again, that's david@whitepicketrealty.com. Non-paid events only. One more time, find us on Facebook at Houston Real Estate Events, and we'll see y'all at the next one.
Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join@teamwpr.com. join@teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, david@houseflippingnetwork.com. That's david@houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on Realty Ruckus. Again, Alan is not with us here in studio today, but this is Jabron Hernandez, and I'm here with my co-producer, David, and we're telling you guys the story of my very first hire, our very first hire as White Picket Realty. And it's a pretty tragic story, to be honest with you. It doesn't have a happy ending. So where we left off,
A tragic tale.
my staff blogger that I had hired had just told me this is the way.
You some attitude.
Yeah, had just given me a little attitude, given me a little lip, and I just sucked it up and I said, hey, you know what? It's fine. And her first day, by the way, was on a Friday. That was her first day on a Friday. And so I said, it's fine. It's her first day. I'm going to go easy on her. And so I say, hey, you know what? I like things done my way, but today I'm going to let you do it this way. Moving forward, I want it done the way that I asked you to. And so she said, okay, that's fine. She was reasonable in that sense. And so here goes, end of the day, Friday. I'm like, hey, great day. We'll see you on Monday. And then it comes Monday, and I receive a phone call like at 9 a.m. or 8:45 a.m. She's supposed to be here at 9. And it's not even from her. It's like a random number. And I'm like, hi, who is this? And she's like, hey, this is so-and-so's mom. I'm like, okay, hello, how can I help you? She's like, oh, well, my daughter's really sick. I had to take her to the emergency room. And I'm thinking, wow, man, like something really, really bad must have happened to her. And I said, well, what's wrong with her? And she said, well, she was really dehydrated. And I was like, well, okay, well, that sure sounds like a hangover. And then and she's like, but she'll call you in a little while and then you guys can talk. And I said, okay, that's fine. So she calls me later and she says, I'm so sorry I can't go into work today, but my legs don't work. I was like, what do you mean your legs don't work? She was like, literally, I can't walk. My legs don't work. Well, later come to find out I didn't know this. This is very, very true. It's not me being sexist. When you weigh very little bit, because she only weighed about 100 pounds, and you're really dehydrated, you don't have enough moisture in your body for the muscles in your legs to work. So you literally can't walk. So she couldn't walk. She was so hungover that she couldn't walk.
So she was dehydrated from drinking massively.
Oh, yeah. She was dehydrated from drinking, going out partying, and then just couldn't walk because her legs didn't work. And to this day, we still laugh about that, me and Alan, because we're like, oh, what, your legs don't work? But I had to let her go. So literally on the next Tuesday, I said, hey, this isn't working out. I got to let you go. And out of the entire mistake of hiring her, the one bright side of it was that I let her go quickly. I didn't make the mistake of keeping her on for an extended period of time, despite the fact that she was failing. As soon as I realized this isn't going to work out, this isn't happening with her, I just went ahead and I let her go for good. So, but it's unfair for everyone else out there to have to make the same mistake. And that's the whole point of today's show is I want to make sure people understand what mistakes not to make and what things to do right.
Yeah, because a lot of our listeners, they might be wanting to grow some type of team, get their own thing started, but the fact of the matter is they may have never worked in an environment where they had to make hiring and firing decisions.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really hard because
it is.
When you start hiring, you're bringing in real people. These are human beings. It's not like when you go out to Micro Center to buy a new computer and you have 15 different computers.
And you're just looking at the specs.
Yeah, you're looking at the specs. You find the specs that work for you.
This is what I needed to do, and this is the machine that can do it for me.
Exactly. That's easy. That part is easy. Yeah. Anybody can do that. But when you bring in the human factor and the human element into it, it completely changes the hiring decision because you may have someone who fits all the specs but doesn't have the right personality or doesn't have the right attitude. I'll give you guys an example. Before Alan hired Brandon, he went through a series of interviews for people who wanted to work as his assistant. And one thing that Alan did very, very well on that one is that he gave people like a trial run. He basically said, come in, shadow me for a day. I want to see how you fit into the environment, how you fit into the culture. Do you like it here or not? And if you do, then we'll keep you on. And what happened is he actually brought in somebody who had all the right parts, right? Who had all the right specs. They could do all the filing. They were fast. They were computer-oriented, tech-savvy. Yeah. But when they came in and tried to fit into the culture here, they didn't make it past that one day. Alan was like, hey, great day. That was on a Friday, too, by the way. It was no different than mine.
Stay away from Fridays as first days.
And come Monday, the difference is I let my person go on a Monday. On Monday, Alan got a phone call at 8:45 a.m. saying, hey, I don't think that that's right for me. I'm not a right fit for that job. And they just didn't accept the position. And that's a good thing. Yeah. He kept somebody out of here who would not have been beneficial to his business. So let's go ahead and jump into what to look for when hiring, because I can sit here and tell you horror stories all day long of people that I've interviewed who just don't make the cut, who don't work out. But what I want people to understand is that it's not only the times that it doesn't work out. There's a lot of times when you're just hiring for the wrong thing. So the number one thing you need to make sure is, are you ready to hire?
Yes.
Right? And I hear that all the time. People always tell me, I don't know if I'm ready to hire. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I don't know if I can afford it, and I don't know if I need it. So the number one thing that you can do, and we talk about this with Richard Smith, and if you go to the class tomorrow on VAs, I'm sure we're going to bring this up again, but you need to make a list. These are the things that I do. Everything. Yes. Everything that you do in a day, these are the things that I do. Now, this is how much time I'm spending on these things.
And these things could even include, I would say, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree, but it could even include, as if you're a realtor or whatnot, like your household chores and cleaning up and doing laundry and those kind of things.
Absolutely. One of the biggest conversations that people have is, should I hire a maid at home or not?
Yeah.
Well, if you can justify the increased expense of the maid by saying, with that extra time, I can go out and make double what I'm paying the maid. Well, now the maid pays for herself and you make extra money.
Exactly.
Right? So you're saving time. Hell, even if it's just to break even, you're better off than having wasted the time on going and doing that cleaning. Those household chores is a waste of time. Guys, nobody likes to scrub toilets. Nobody likes to do laundry. That's just the reality. And so if you can find a way to fit that maid, fit that cleaner into your schedule, that is hiring a team member, believe it or not.
Yeah.
If they may not be directly helping you with work, but they're providing you with extra time that you can use towards your work. So yes, I do agree with you completely. Those are all tasks.
Yeah, so
that
when you're
you
making
should
your
include.
list, include those menial household tasks as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's cool about those is that those are fixed expenses that you know are coming every single week. So it's not like your household maid works on an hourly budget. Normally they say $80 a week or something. So you know I can quantify that $80. Can I make $80 extra with the extra time I have of not having to sit at home and do laundry and sweep and mop and vacuum and do all of those annoying things, right? But let's think about just in the office place specifically. All the things that you do for your company is what you need to write down. And then you need to say, these are the things that are taking up a lot of my time that I'm not great at. And guess what? Most type A personalities, entrepreneurs who are ready to start hiring, are not good at tasks like filing paperwork. They're not good at tasks like answering simple emails, things like that. They're good at getting out there, being in the field and working. So once you start to say, these are the tasks that I could have somebody else do that I don't have to waste time on, that's how you know when you're ready to hire. When you're busy enough to keep somebody busy doing those things. Now, does that mean you have to go and hire somebody full time? Go out and find a full 40-hour-a-week person?
No.
The answer, no, absolutely not, guys. Don't feel obligated to find a 40-hour-a-week person. I made that mistake. I don't know why, but in my head, I had this big misconception that every single hire that you bring in is a full-time employee. It's not. And you
No.
don't have to feel that way. It's okay to bring in somebody part-time. They're coming in to fill in the gaps that you don't have. And guess what? Over time, that part-time is probably going to become a full-time position. But in the beginning, you may not be ready for that. And guess what? You may not even be ready for a full part-time in-house assistant. You may just say, well, I have about 5 things I don't like to do, and I could have a VA do it, and it's about 10 hours a week total to do those things. Great. Now you know I either need a VA, I need a part-time, or I need a full-time. But you have to know the exact tasks that you expect that person to do. If you don't know exactly what you want that person to do and what their day should look like, you are not ready to hire. You're not even ready to start interviewing because you don't know what it's going to take to fill those roles. Would you not agree with me?
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to go ahead and list out all the things that you do and what you can put off on somebody else. And you got to make sure it's enough. I would say at least, 5 hours worth of work or so, you can get a VA to easily knock that out. But if you don't have something defined for that person to do, I guarantee you they're going to find ways to waste time and slack off and find things that keep them busy.
Yeah.
Somehow filling the vague role that you gave them.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's so true because people will find a way to keep themselves, like you said, busy so that they feel like they're doing something while they're at work, but it may not be something that's actually benefiting your business. It's just something that's taking up their time while they're there. So you have to know the exact specific role you need that person to play. And don't lie to yourself and be like, well, it's just because I'm so spread out that I don't know what those roles are. That's just because you haven't taken the time to write down all the things that you do. If you take the time, I guarantee you there's probably not more than 10 to 15 things that you actually do. And there's a big part of those, at least a third, that you could pass to somebody else without having to worry about your business collapsing. Would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, no, definitely.
The other part of it, and I think this is another mistake people make, and it's a mistake that I made, is that you know what that person's role is, you know what they want them to do. You bring them in, you interview, you like them in the interview. And guys, we're going to get into interviewing here a little bit later as well.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that at the end of this show, you have a good feeling on whether you're ready to go out and hire or not. but you interview them, you feel good about them, you bring them in, and then you say, okay, this is what I expect you to do. Just like I told her, I expect you to write blogs and post them on the website. And while those are fairly specific, it's not specified enough to how I expect the job to be done. This is how long I expect you to have to work on something. This is the quality that I'm expecting. All of those expectations have to be set up front with that person, and you need to make sure that they're in writing and that they're clear. Otherwise, that person is not going to know when they're meeting your expectations or not. And if they don't know for sure whether they're making you happy or not, they're going to start to fall towards mediocrity. Well, is it good enough? Is it good enough to keep them happy? And you don't want that to happen to you with your hires. You want your hires to know, I'm doing my job, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I know that it's a good job. Otherwise, you will fall into that mediocrity of, well, I guess what I'm doing is good enough. I don't know if it is or not because I don't really get any feedback and I never got any expectations. And so I'm just doing what I can.
And it's kind of hard on the employee's psyche, even if that's kind of hard to believe. But an employee wants to know that they are completing something, doing their task, and doing it well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And that's one of the mistakes that I've made in the past is I'll bring in somebody, I'll have good expectations, but then I don't do any follow-up. I don't do any review process. So I don't actually sit down and look at it and say, okay, well, are you meeting the goals that I gave you? Are you meeting the tasks that I gave you? And that's another big failure in hiring is people love to complain, my employees suck. I've heard that so many times from business owners. Oh, man, I just can't seem to find anybody good. And then I ask them questions like, well, what does your training process look like? Well, I had them shadow Steve over there for 3 days, and Steve is a pretty good employee. He knows what he's doing. But for some reason, they just can't get it. They're not smart enough to get it. And it makes me think, well, do you even know what Steve's doing? Like, shadowing someone is not always enough. Sometimes people need direct, explicit training, and you fail them on that side where you don't give them the training that they need to do the job that you expect of them.
I would say sometimes it's not even training. Just speaking from my experience quickly here before we go to break, as a branch manager when I was in banking, a lot of times it's just listening to your employees and their wants and their needs. So there would be trouble employees at other branches that I would sometimes get.
Yeah.
And I would sit down with them, have a one-on-one, kind of lay out my expectations and just feel them out and just ask them, what do they need? What do they want? And many times just me paying attention to them and feeding those needs and those wants turned them into a great employee and turned them around at my branch.
Yeah, no, and I've heard of that happening more often than not is you can actually turn someone who you think would be a mediocre employee into one of your top producers. And it all has to do with you being a good manager on the other side.
Exactly.
Guys, when we come back, we're going to keep talking about hiring people, and I want to get very much into the interview process and the actual hiring process. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you after the break.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service and an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Stop searching and start staying in the know with our Houston Real Estate Events page on Facebook. Follow us by searching at Houston Real Estate Events to stay up to date on the latest events for real estate in the Houston area. If you are interested in having your event on our page, please email me at david@whitepickettrealty.com. Again, that's david@whitepickettrealty.com. Non-paid events only. One more time, find us on Facebook at Houston Real Estate Events, and we'll see y'all at the next one.
Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on Realty Ruckus. Remember that you can live tweet us at Realty Ruckus if you want to chat with us. If you have any questions or comments, we're happy to answer them live on the air. Again, you can find us on YouTube and Facebook, and you can always ask your questions and comments there. Now, today we're talking a lot about hiring, making sure that you have the right people on your team, and firing quickly. And what I want to jump into, and we haven't really talked about it much, is the actual process of interviewing and bringing people in. Now, what I want to do is I want to learn about what your process at the bank looked like, because that's more of a corporate process, right?
Yes.
And that'll give us an idea, because guess what, guys? I know everyone's like, oh, I hate corporate America. I'm not going to go to corporate America. But one thing corporate America has done is they do things right, which is how they build their businesses so big.
Yeah, there's got to be processes and policies in place to make it effective, efficient, and also to keep your butt out of trouble.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a huge one you just said. Keep your butt out of trouble, because there's been times when I've received phone calls from the Texas Workforce Commission saying, you said something you weren't supposed to say, and you need to remedy this.
Yeah.
And so that happens.
Yeah, and that's actually something important that I would say to our listeners you should inform yourself about is look up what you can and cannot say during an interview, because there is a lot that you would think you could say, but you really can't. Something as simple as, what school did you go to? Or what school did you go to? How old are you? You can't ask a person how old you are.
Yep.
Or
a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, or their birth date, or there's a lot of things you need to stay away from. That there's people that are like professional interviewers that just go out and try to get people on the hook for
and then they go and they file a lawsuit against
Exactly.
them for discrimination on the
Exactly.
interview. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I've heard of that way too often. That happens now. And guys, that happens in every industry. There's patent trolls. There's all sorts of trolls, and there's people that will troll you in interviews. That actually, somebody got trolled from an apartment complex. I think it was Tom Berry and his wife. They got trolled by somebody who was just interviewer looking to get a place in an apartment. So you got to be careful for that, and you got to make sure that everything you're saying is above par and up to the law. Now, what did the process look like at your bank? And I want to see, does it look anything like the process that we have here?
So obviously we would have applications roll in, typically from the internet. We also had recruiters at the bank that would actively be seeking out potential candidates. And then we would receive their applications, typically with a resume attached. And then we would kind of go filter them out, and I could select which ones I wanted to set up interview times with. And
now, for the people out there that are looking for a job, or the employers that are getting ready to start looking at resumes, what are some things that made you immediately cut resumes out?
if it's too long.
God, me too, man. If it's more than a page and a half, really, I like it to be on one page.
One page.
But I'll take a page and a half if it's somebody who's got a lot of qualifications or a lot of special skills, things like that.
I feel like you can tell a lot from the resume, the personality of the person.
Yeah.
Cause my resume, it reflects kind of my personality. It's very minimal. It's clean. And it's to the
concise.
point. It's concise.
Yeah.
That's what my resume looked like. When I get a resume that's jam-packed, not well formatted, just kind of all over the place, and it's 2 pages long,
Yeah.
it's going in the trash.
Oh, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think that as somebody who's hiring, you have to remember people are getting hundreds of those resumes.
Yeah.
And when you send in that 4-page resume, it's like, great. I'm glad that you like coach Little League football, Little League baseball, Little League soccer, Little League hockey, and that you're so involved with the community. But at the same time, try to keep that concise. Tell me in a shorter form that those are all the qualifications you have.
Yeah, early when we were talking, we kind of said something about the computers, and they have their specs, and it's pretty easy. You don't have to deal with that human factor, the emotions, the cultural fit, all that stuff. To me, a resume is kind of like a person's spec sheet.
That's a good way to put it.
Put the bare minimum, put exactly what's pertinent to the job, and that's going to let me know, does this person have the specs or not to fill the position?
Yeah.
Once I'm, see they have the specs or not, then that's when I do the interview, and from the interview, that's where I can tell the cultural and personal fit.
Yeah. No, and what's one thing that we started doing, it doesn't sound like you did this at the bank, but one thing that we started doing on all of our interviews is before we ever even brought them in, we did a phone interview. And we talked to them. And phone interviews don't have to last more than 5 to 10 minutes.
Typically,
guys.
the recruiter handled that.
Okay. So
Yeah,
you did have somebody doing that portion of it.
Exactly.
And that was one way that we started filtering out a lot of people who we didn't need to start bringing in. Because when you bring somebody in, you intend to spend 30 minutes to an hour with them, and sometimes it goes even longer if you're having a very good interview. But when you do the phone interview first, it gives you the idea, is this person even worth bringing in? And a lot of the times you'll start to hear what people think, do they really want a job or not, and you'll get a feel for them before you ever have to bring them in, and you can either cut them or you can say, these people are going to my short list. These people sounded really good on the phone. Let me bring them back in for that in-person interview.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Obviously, the recruiters did that for us. One huge thing that I would advise people out there is during the interview process, have some questions that are pertinent to your position and your expectations, all that written out ahead of time for you. And it's okay to write things down and take notes. Just go ahead and tell the candidate, hey, I'm going to be taking some notes just to help me remember later on. And that helps put them at ease because a lot of times people get nervous when you start writing things down.
I've noticed that. As soon as you start writing, people tend to clench up a little bit. And it's like they're unsure at what notes you're making. Are they good notes? Are they bad notes? And if it's like me, or even like I know Ashley Patton too, sometimes I just doodle. Like it just it's not that I'm writing notes. It just helps me keep my focus. I have to let my hands do something, or else I can't really focus.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking notes. It's not that I'm writing something like this person sucks or anything down like that. It's just that that's what I have to do. So, yeah, you're right. It is good to let a candidate know that ahead of time.
You want to take the anxiety out for them so their true personality can shine through. You want to let them know you're going to be taking notes and exactly how the interview is going to go. So if you want to kind of prep them ahead of time, just let them know this is what we're going to be doing during the course of this interview.
Yeah.
And that way they feel a little bit more relaxed and they kind of know what to expect. And then that nervousness doesn't come through. Instead, their personality can shine through and you can get a good feel for them.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with that more. So you have the phone interview, you cut out the people immediately on the phone interview that you just don't feel good about. Then you bring somebody in. What is a good length of time for an interview to last?
To not be rude, typically within the first 5 minutes, I knew if I wanted a person or not.
Yeah.
Typically within the first 5 minutes, I knew if I didn't want them for sure. And then a little bit longer.
Do you waste your time even going forward, or do you jump straight to the last questions?
I go through it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I keep it kind of short, but I'm going to at least make it 15 to 20 minutes to not be rude. I'm not generally seen as a nice person, but I do have some sympathy for some people. I can be empathetic, and so I don't want, they tried at least. If it's someone that's not trying, I don't care. Get out of here, but I'll give them some time.
And maybe it's just me, but sometimes when I have an interviewer come in who just bombed the interview, I'll finish the interview. I'll go through the whole thing with them, and I'll actually say, hey, look, man, I'm not going to be considering you for this position, but if you'd like to have a better interview in the future with other employers, these are some things I recommend. Yeah. And I'll actually give them some tips because, yeah, you're right. Some people don't get enough practice interviewing, and they need that practice. They need to know how to behave in an interview. It's a very different environment to be in an interview. And from the interviewer side, if you're interviewing someone, don't be nervous. Like that's so frustrating whenever the interviewer is nervous. Yeah. You can't take them seriously.
And that's
if
why
they're
I said
shaking.
It's good to have some notes and be prepared ahead of time. Know what you're going to talk about. Have your questions jotted down, and keep it consistent for each of the candidates.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing. If anyone takes anything away from this, is make sure you have those interview questions already made up. Don't be the person that wings it and says, well, why do you think you're a good fit for the job? And you have 2 or 3 questions and that's it. Come in prepared, because you got to remember, not only are you selecting a candidate, but the candidate's also selecting you.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably interviewing for 3 or 4 or 5 other jobs, And if they go into your office and they feel like you were just unkept, unprepared, and I can tell you this for a fact because I know people who've turned down jobs
Oh yeah.
just because the interviewer didn't seem prepared.
Yeah, and for the interviewer, I would say, prepare some questions. Maybe I should be more specific because you don't want to put down very general questions like why would you be a good cultural fit, or you want to ask things that are specific to the role, and then
Yeah.
you want that person to give you real life examples of ways they have come up with solutions that could fit that role, or just past work experience. So you want them to show you that they can actually was competent when it comes to those type of things. And typically you can tell if someone's lying or not when you ask them to provide a real world experience or example.
That's so true because if they don't have it, they're not going to be able to
Yeah.
discuss it at all.
Yeah.
Bringing up those scenarios is a really big deal. Another thing that I found that really works for me, and this works when interviewing really for anything, is throwing scenarios out there, almost like role plays, where you say, okay, this is the situation. How would you handle it? And you start to see people's problem solving ability. And I always say this, there's no such thing as like a dumb person. But the questions they ask can be dumb because they don't lead to the answer. The questions that they ask lead to the next immediate answer, but it doesn't give them an overall idea of the bigger picture. Excuse me. So I always want to do problem-solving questions where it's real-life scenarios. Hey, if you're interviewing for an agent, if you go to a seller's house and this happens, what would you do? Things like that.
Well, right here before we go to break, another great way to test those candidates is put them out in the field. At the bank, we were very sales intensive, so I would make them actually go out and do some prospecting and some sales work and test them right there, put their feet to the fire.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I like that. Guys, when we come back, we got some more tips for you. I know we've got a lot of events that you're going to want to know about. We'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Hey everyone, this is David over at White Picket Realty, and I wanted to tell you about my friends over at Plans Express who can save you the headache of running your own permits. These guys are committed to offering a one-stop solution for all your plan and permit needs. They're proudly serving their friends and neighbors in the Houston surrounding areas, and they offer great service at an exceptional value. With dedicated professionals ready to serve, contact them today at 832-675-6217.
Stop searching and start staying in the know with our Houston Real Estate Events page on Facebook. Follow us by searching at Houston Real Estate Events to stay up to date on the latest events for real estate in the Houston area. If you are interested in having your event on our page, please email me at david@whitepickettrealty.com. Again, that's david@whitepickettrealty.com. Non-paid events only. One more time, find us on Facebook at Houston Real Estate Events, and we'll see y'all at the next one.
Hey realtors, I have a challenge for you. Walk into your broker's office and ask him to show you how to do a net listing, a wholesale investment transaction, or a subject to. I'm Alan Hernandez, broker of White Picket Realty, and my team and I have been doing these type of transactions for years. We can show you how to do the same and turn small deals into big checks. If you're interested in learning more, please contact join at teamwpr.com. JOIN at teamwpr.com.
Hey Houston investors, do you have a couple deals under your belt, but now you're looking to scale in a more structured way? If so, then the House Flipping Network provides guidance to those looking to grow their real estate business. It's also a great way to mastermind with our experts and groups of like-minded investors just like yourself. If you're interested in more information, reach out to me, David at houseflippingnetwork.com. That's David at houseflippingnetwork.com.
And we are back on Realty Ruckus. You can always live tweet us at Realty Ruckus. You can also chat with us on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And today we've been talking all about hiring, bringing on new people for your team, when to know that you're ready, and the right process for making sure that the employees that you bring on will be successful. Now, one thing we do have to also talk about, because it is important and it is relevant, is firing people and when to let people go. Now, the answer is letting people go is not easy. There's never the right time, but the right time is when you realize that that person is not the person for the role that you needed. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and you got to fire them quick.
Yeah, once you have somebody and you realize that they're not the person for that role, You need to let them know, one, why they're not meeting your expectations, and give them the opportunity to meet those expectations, because it could just be a bad managerial side that you didn't tell them exactly what the expectations were. But once you've had another sit down with them, given the expectations and said, these are the goals you have to meet. If you don't meet these goals, I'm going to have to let you go. And if they don't meet those goals, let them go. Do not linger. Do not hang on to those people. They're not your friends. Don't be like Michael Scott and be like, how do I fire someone but still be friends with them afterwards? You're not going to be friends with them, okay? You got to just let them go. That's the reality, and I get it. We're all humans, and we worry about those people because even though those people might suck and be the worst people for your company, you still think about how are they going to feed their family? Where are they going to get money to live from? And all of that weight sits on your shoulders. Don't feel bad. If you brought them on for a certain job or task and they're not fulfilling that job or task, that's not on you, that's on them. Let them go. Don't feel bad about it. Be nice about it, but make it quick, make it fast, and say, that's it, we're splitting ways. And again, don't say, can we still be friends?
Yeah, unfortunately, at the bank, I couldn't fire people at will.
Yeah.
Because it was a corporation, and they didn't want to pay unemployment for people and avoid this and that. Sometimes I was stuck with really crappy employees. And I'll tell you what, even with these tips that we gave you for interviewing and kind of filtering out bad candidates, it's still an extremely hard process, and you more than likely will have to fire some people on the other side anyways, because the interview process is just, some people are very good at interviews, and you really can't tell what type.
So true.
What type of employee they're going to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You get better, you can kind of tell more as you go along, but it's still impossible to tell really and truthfully from an interview what type of employee that person is going to be.
Yeah. And I will say this also. In the interview, one thing that you can always tell is if you have a certain position for someone in tasks that you want them to do, but they keep asking you about where they're headed or what other bigger tasks there are, or other tasks not necessarily related to the exact job you want for them, even though that person might be a really good candidate, they're not the right candidate for that job. So don't make that mistake either of saying, well, this person's really great, maybe I can mold them to fit into what I want them to. If they have another idea in their head of what their job is going to be, guess what? When they come in, they're going to start doing that job, not the one that you expected them to, and you're going to wind up having to fire them later and let them go.
Yeah, you want an employee that's going to be happy, and if they're not going to be happy doing the tasks that you need to be done, don't hire them. And once you find somebody that is good at doing that, keep them happy, because retention is a whole lot easier than constantly rehiring and re-interviewing and refiltering and going through all that circus again. Keep your employees happy.
I couldn't agree with that more. And it's funny because when we went to the NARIP convention in Los Angeles, we just came back from that. We were listening to this lady there who was saying the best way to hire people is to keep people happy.
Yeah.
Happy people will bring on more good people.
Exactly.
And disgruntled employees will literally poison the well.
Yeah, and she was specifically talking about her recruiting process. And at first, she had focused on the technological side and advertising what her business can do. And when she switched to focusing on the human resource side and really making sure her agents were happy, she found that her team doubled within a year, because those happy agents were going out and telling other agents how happy they were. And, of course, people want to go where they're going to be happy.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm even willing to go as far as to say some people are willing to give up income to be in a very happy job than to be in a very miserable job but making more money.
That's my first job out of college I took because it was a higher paid salary position. I needed to pay off some student loans, start getting that down. And then after 9 months, being very unhappy, I said, screw this. I'm just going to go take that bank job. And I started out as a personal banker, and I said, I'll just climb as fast as I can to branch manager. And I did, but I had to go from making a salary position,
going back to the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, and I went back down to $9 an hour and worked my way back up past the salary I originally had, but it took me a year and a half.
Yeah, well, I hope we've given everyone who's listening today some really, really good tips on hiring, because if you're ready to start hiring, tomorrow we have a class on hiring, but not just hiring anybody, specifically how to hire a virtual assistant.
Yeah, exactly. So tomorrow we have our How to Grow Your Real Estate Team with a Virtual Assistant. So if you're a realtor, this is a free class for you. It's going to be held tomorrow at the Allied Home Warranty Office. That's 1050 Post Oak, I believe, Suite 240. And you can see all the details at vaclass.eventbrite.com. But basically, Alan and Richard Smith are going to be explaining when are you ready for a VA, where to start looking for a virtual assistant, and how can you vet those virtual assistants, and then the process of actually hiring somebody halfway across the world to do work for you while you sleep or during your regular business hours at typically half the cost of what you would find here in the States.
Yeah, and I think that one of the biggest fears that people have is just that, what you said, somebody all the way on the other side of the world. And it makes you think like, whoa, how can somebody on the other side of the world actually be helping me? But guys, it's very possible. Yeah. And it's very inexpensive.
And Richard Smith is an expert in this. I mean, this guy is on autopilot. His business, basically, he just shows up and speaks when he needs to speak and schmoozes who he needs to schmooze, and the rest is the cash flowing in because he's automated it to a point where, you know, he has created the lifestyle that he wants for himself. So you're getting it from an expert.
I don't know if Richard would want me to be saying this, but we've probably communicated with Richard once or twice directly to put together this class. Yeah. Everything else has been done through his VA.
Yep.
And his VA has done a phenomenal job.
Amazing job.
I mean, the guy logs in, sends out emails, communicates with us. Hey, what's going on here? Yeah. Are we on track on this?
He's
Are we
even
on
called
track
me.
on this? Oh, he's even called you.
Yeah, he's called me during our regular business hours. So.
Yeah. So, guys, Richard Smith, he knows what he's talking about. This is going to be a phenomenal class. When you show up over there, look for the valet parking booth. We'll have a valet parking booth there so you can valet your car. It's free. If you signed up before the charges, it's free. And if not, if you're a realtor, all you have to do is put in your Trek ID, and the tickets are free as well.
Yeah, if not, it's about $15. But guys, if this is going to save you hundreds of dollars in the future or hours of your time, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, $15 to figure this stuff out. I can't tell you the countless hours I spent trying to figure out what to look for in a VA.
Yeah, and actually,
how to vet
yeah,
one.
and you and Alan went through a couple of VAs, did your own
we got
research.
screwed by some.
Exactly.
I mean, we're very transparent on this show.
And I'm sure you lost more than $15, right?
Oh man, it was thousands. We've lost thousands on VAs before because we didn't know how to use them properly.
Exactly. So $15 to get the lowdown from two experts, I think that's a pretty good deal.
Oh, it's beyond a good deal. And if you don't make it, I think that you're cheating yourself. If you're a business owner and you've had any curiosity whatsoever about a VA, this is your chance to come out there, learn it. And heck, you may realize it's not for me. Mm-hmm. You know, you may say, I don't want to hire a VA. Or you may go out there and be like, hey, this is a lot easier than I thought it would be. Let me give it a shot.
Yeah, and there's a lot more that they can do than I thought that they could do.
Oh, yeah, and you'd be surprised how much a VA can do. I love it when people say, no, I can't hire somebody because only I can do my job right. And it's like, no, there's always somebody else who can also do it right. You only trust yourself right now, and you need to grow your trust in everybody else.
Yeah, so again, you can RSVP for that class at vaclass.eventbrite.com. vaclass.eventbrite.com, and it's free for realtors. It's filling up pretty quick. I think we're about full, so if anyone else wants to jump on last minute.
Yeah, and I know that some people, somebody asked me the other day, they were like, I can't find it. How do you spell Eventbrite?
Oh, it's EVENTBRITE.
There you go, guys. Not BRIGHT. You won't find it that way.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's Eventbrite, EVENTBRITE. No IGHT. Just BRITE, eventbrite.com.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the comments right now.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to put it in the comments, vaclass.eventbrite.com. And that's tomorrow. Now, if you're looking for something to do tonight, and you want to get out there and you want to do some networking with some of the top individuals in this industry, investors, realtors, loan officers, we have an event for you. And where's that at?
Yeah, that's going to be Capital Concepts. It's hosting their monthly networking mixer. That's going to be at LaGrange from 5:30 to 8:30. Just search Capital Concepts on Facebook, and you can find their RSVP page. You can also look on the Houston Real Estate Events page
Perfect.
to find that RSVP information as well.
Okay, and what other events do we have coming up?
Okay, so tonight we have that Capital Concepts. Tomorrow from 11 to about 2-ish, we're going to have that VA class with Richard Smith. And then coming up a couple weeks after that, we have our happy hour, the White Picket Happy Hour. About 200 plus real estate professionals, investors, lenders, you have it, are going to be out there. That's October 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. at St. Arnold. And you can RSVP for that at whitepickethappyhour.eventbrite.com.
Perfect. So whitepickethappyhour.eventbrite.com. And then I know that also in late October, PLF is doing their annual bowling with costumes, and White Picket's going to be showing up in mad force on that.
Yes, we are.
And we're all going to wear matching costumes for a very good TV show out there.
Exactly. I'm really excited.
It's going to be a good one, guys. Thank you so much for catching us on the show today. Alan will be back in studio on Friday. He'll also be at the class tomorrow, the VA class, again, that we've been talking about, vaclass.eventbrite.com.
Yep.
And we'll catch you guys on Friday. Hopefully you'll learn something tomorrow. We'll see you guys then. Thanks so much for listening.
This has been the Realty Ruckus. Make sure and join us every Tuesday and Friday for new episodes. Find us on YouTube and Facebook for replays of previous episodes. And as always, keep elevating yourself and keep up your ruckus. Thanks for listening. Realty Ruckus has been brought to you by Smart Pig Media Productions.